Previously on the Steven Universe Season 3 review. The first half of Season 3 was good so far. It's got everything you would expect out of this series up to this point, but there's a lot of underwhelming and disappointing episodes that are weighing it down from surpassing the previous two seasons. But don't get me started on Super Watermelon Island, which is the worst episode. And now, Nick reads Steven Universe fanfiction. But Garnet, Pearl complained, holding Garnet's hand. You gave me your hand. What do you mean you don't want to get married? Yeah, well now I want it back, Garnet said, reattaching her left hand to her arm. Alone at Sea is where things get consistently good and interesting. Dare I say that it turns the tide of the season? Jasper somehow comes back after falling into the center of the earth, and is now intent on stopping Steven by any means necessary. Knowing that Jasper is now on the loose really raises the stakes for the season, and that makes Alone at Sea more worthwhile. Although I wasn't a big fan of how it puts forth the interesting idea that Lapis and Jasper bonded while fused, but then does nothing with it. I understand that the show is pretty busy covering other topics, and I thoroughly enjoyed every other aspect of this episode. I just hope that this detail is someday expanded upon, because it really interests me, even if Jasper is corrupted now. Greg the Babysitter comes next, and while it isn't part of the current story arc, it's another great flashback episode that ties in the origin of Greg's job, with an interesting look at growing up, as well as some nice songs and character interactions. The next episode in the Jasper story arc is Crack That Whip. It is sadly not the Johnny Test tribute episode we all wanted deep inside. It begins a character arc for Amethyst with Jasper beating her up and making her believe that she will always be weak because of how she was made, which is also a nice callback to Too Far. The conclusion makes you feel both happy and sad, as it's great to see Stevonnie stand a chance against Jasper after they sort of failed to do this back in Gem Hunt, but then it reminds you that Amethyst failed and that Jasper may actually be right. I love the different emotions the end of the episode dishes out. It does so much with only a few lines and facial expressions, and it helps set up how Steven and Amethyst feel in Steven vs. Amethyst. Another good episode with a solid fight scene and good character moments. In the middle of the story arc is the series' first proper two-parter, Bismuth. It introduces a new crystal gem to the team, and despite it being obvious from the beginning that this character wasn't going to stick around, this episode handled her really well. At first, it kind of felt like Bismuth was one of those brain parasites from that Rick and Morty episode where they snuck into the characters' minds and changed their memories, since no one ever mentioned this gem beforehand. But Bismuth was given enough chemistry with the other gems, as well as quite a bit of foreshadowing that made me buy the fact that she was originally a crystal gem. As a character, Bismuth's design and powers are unique, her voice actor did a great job, and her tough but sweet personality made me quickly grow to like her. But enough about her, even though she is the focus of the episode. The end tackles the idea of how homeworld gems should be treated. Steven and Bismuth debate on whether they should be given a chance to be redeemed or shattered. They both give out good points, and the episode doesn't paint one of them to be completely right or wrong. I also gotta commend this episode for its nearly perfect pacing. Every minute is important, yet the episode isn't rushed. There's enough downtime here for the audience to really get to know Bismuth, and her fate is justified. Additionally, for an episode that kinda comes out of nowhere, Bismuth sets up future episodes really well. It brings up the idea of homeworld gems being shattered, which we'll see again very soon, as well as having the fate of rogue gems being put in Steven's hands, which will happen a few more times this season. Overall, Bismuth is a great special that treats a one-off character perfectly. Following this two-parter is a two-parter that's really just two episodes that directly follow each other. Beta and Earthlings. These two episodes probably could have been fused into one. Beta spends a lot of time checking in with Peridot and Lapis, and the main plot doesn't get started until about halfway through. Earthlings gives us the reveal of Smoky Quartz, and a great fight against Jasper, but it's bogged down by having way too much of nothing but talking at its climax. Bismuth had a similar climax, but at least Steven and Bismuth were actually fighting and moving around while talking. The reveal of Smoky is handled really well, and that's a well thought out fusion, but the initial reveal kind of wears off after multiple viewings. These episodes needed to be reorganized a little. The Peridot and Lapis stuff should have been its own episode. Those two are so entertaining together that they would have been able to pull it off.
Just 1 second. I want to check and make sure Lapis is okay. Hey, Lapis, are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm leaving, but I'll be back.
Okay.
Do you need anything?
No.
What season is that?
3.
Then you can make everything in the Beta Kindergarten its own episode, and it would have gone a lot smoother. To be clear, I enjoyed Beta and Earthlings, but they could have been so much better if a few tweaks were made. Earthlings leads right into Back to the Moon, where the rubies return and one thing just leads into another. The rubies were once again pretty funny, but the big takeaway from this episode is the reveal that rose quartz shattered pink diamond. It almost changes how you look at this series. This reveal is really well done, as it ties into other recent plot threads. From bismuth, we know that Rose was kind of a secretive person, and didn't treat every gem equally. Steven has also been in a similar position as his mother in the past few episodes, and we really see the differences between them. I really like this plot point as it adds a lot more depth to Rose, and shows just how far she went to protect Earth. I hope that it's brought up again in more future episodes, but I just kinda wish that it was revealed in episodes that were a little bit better, since it was by far the highlight of these 2 episodes. Back to the Moon is a fun episode due to the presence of the rubies, and Bubbled has some great visuals and atmosphere, but both episodes don't really feel like a season finale. There's very little action, and most of Bubbled is just characters talking. Although the last 2 minutes of that episode, with the gems saving Steven and Love Like You playing in the background, is fantastic. But even though the finale was kind of lackluster, that doesn't change my mind from thinking that Season 3 of Steven Universe was still good. Coming off of a fantastic second season, Steven Universe's 3rd season was a little disappointing. I know that I complained a lot about it during this review, but most of the episodes that I had problems with were still fine. The past 2 seasons have set the bar so high that I now hold Steven Universe to a really high standard. There were some episodes and moments that met that standard, like Barnmates, Mr. Greg, and Crack That Whip, to name a few. And the animation, background music, voice acting, and foreshadowing was the best it's ever been. Although like Season 2, there could have been a few more songs. Then again, Mr. Greg has almost as many songs as Season 2 had in total, so I really shouldn't complain. But while I liked quite a bit of it, a good chunk of the season ranged from good to alright, and a lot of episodes had a few problems that kept them from being great, like the new Lars, Gem Drill, and Monster Reunion. Although those episodes still make up less than half of the season. If I had to put my finger on what I thought brought down the season, it would be the central characters didn't have conflicts that were interesting enough to hold my attention, or the conflicts themselves were sometimes solved and presented sloppily. This season in general felt a lot slower, as there were a lot of self-contained character-centric episodes rather than arcs. But the only long arc this season did have was well-paced and had a satisfying conclusion. The season premieres and finales were not great. In fact, I consider one of them to be one of the worst episodes of the series. I still enjoyed this season despite my almost constant complaining. Steven Universe Season 3 may not have been as good as what preceded it, but when the worst it has to offer still looks like this, then I say that it's worth a 7.5 out of 10. In total, there were about 2 episodes I thought were fantastic, 10 that I thought were great, 8 that I thought were good, 2 that I thought were okay, and 2 that I thought were mediocre. I know that the grade I gave this season is much lower than the ones I gave the others, but I still find Steven Universe to be better than a majority of cartoons on TV now, and I still highly recommend it. Then again, if you watch this video all the way through, you just got the season spoiled for yourself. Sorry. I'm Nintendo, and I hope you all have a happy holiday. There will be one more video before the start of the new year, but as for this video...
It's over, isn't it? Why can't I move on? It's over,